Welcome back to Adobe Live. My name is Ryan Selvey, and I'm super excited to be talking to Jules Jacobs today. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing great. I've been looking forward to this stream just because it's something very different than a lot of the other stuff that we've worked on streams past. This is specifically working with some underwater photography, which is not your everyday. I mean, it's your everyday, but it's not our everyday. So people who are seeing you for the first time, do you want to give a quick introduction of yourself and what you're passionate about?
Yeah, it sounds great. My name is Jules Jacobs. I'm an underwater conservation photojournalist, which is a long title, but what that
Yeah.
basically means is I'm looking to tell real life stories of what's going on in our oceans, global ocean health, reporting back from what I see in the wild to you around the world, and telling all those stories through a conservation, science, and natural history lens. So, trying to figure out how we take global issues, bring them down to a local thing that you can see, feel, and understand, and how to then make your neighborhood a little bit better by using some of those lessons.
Oh, that's very cool. And I just have to know, did you grow up by the water, or is it something that kind of came up later in life?
No, you know what? I grew up in the suburbs of Maryland, and
Oh, I
so
didn't know
we
that.
were
Wait, what part of Maryland are you from?
yeah, originally from Rockville area, so
Oh, from
about
Rockville. Okay,
three
cool.
hours from the closest beach.
Yeah, yeah, from like Ocean City and stuff. Okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Or,
exactly,
but
right?
also, did you ever jump into the Chesapeake Bay? Like, I'm sure you probably would need some shots for that afterwards. Not photo shots, but like medical shots.
The medical shots. Yeah, the Potomac and the Chesapeake have gotten better. They're both super important ecosystems,
Yeah.
but maybe not great for water clarity and shooting underwater.
For sure. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna share your screen here. I have
Yeah,
lots of questions. I'm also gonna blow it up a little bit more just so that people can have a nice view of everything.
yeah, for
So
sure.
as I do that, can you just tell us a little bit about kind of like what your setup is? Like how do you shoot underwater? What are you shooting with? Is it a normal camera with a case, or is it like what are we looking at?
Yeah, so when we're talking about professional underwater photography, people can go from little compact rigs all the way up to big dive housings like I have. So
Okay.
I have my normal photojournalism setup with a full frame DSLR, and that's in an aluminum housing. And that's
Okay.
been specially machined to have all the corresponding controls on the housing that I do on the camera. So I'm
Right.
able to control every aspect of ISO, aperture, function buttons, everything that I would have on my normal land setup, I have in this housing.
And in that housing, do you have to set that up before you go under the water? Or is it like, do they have giant dials kind of on the external that you can switch around?
Not only do I have giant dials, I've got about 1,000 buttons and levers.
Oh,
And I'm
cool.
actually more used to that setup now than I am with my land setup. So it's almost like adjusting back when I'm just shooting up topside.
I
But
want to see it up top side. That's so funny. But I also want to see you like bringing that machine out into land and like trying to mess with dials while you're lugging it around. Want to say a quick hello to everyone in chat. We have Dino, Giannis, who we were just live with, which is great. He says he's really looking forward to this. Joshua is joining us. Bishop School, Beluga. It also says Go Jules. So it's great to see everybody on here
what's up,
and
Andrew?
on YouTube as well. We also have Mike and Peter over on Behance and Jacob. So,
What's up, guys?
um, very excited. Also, how I promise we'll talk about your work. I just want to get some of my burning questions out of the way first. Is the camera super heavy underwater?
Oh man, it's heavy as all get out.
Is it really? Okay, that's what I kind of
Yeah, but
figured.
going to the gym, got to train those farmer carries. We've got a little rope that you hold it
Yeah.
on, but with that, and you got 80 pounds of scuba gear on, it's got to do lots of squats.
Oh yeah, sure. And I'm sure like also like I'm interested. I'll say this as we're kind of like hopping into more stuff, but I am like
Yeah.
interested about like when you first got into it, like when you upgraded probably to getting one of those probably really expensive underwater cameras, like when you got scuba certified. But before we hop into all that, because I'm sure there are some people watching that probably already know those answers, and they're just like, just get to the photos. What are we looking at today as far as photos? Like, what is this from?
Yeah.
Into the deep end.
So we talk a lot about like what does the ocean look like from shore to sea in San Diego? Because
Okay.
we're so lucky that in California, we've got a network of marine protected areas. that create little local hotspots that protect marine life, have insane biodiversity. But in San Diego, we go from these real flat sandy shores that are underneath, the shadows of mansions, and we go into these submarine canyons. And what that does is it funnels cold water up, bringing nutrients that feed kelp forests, that feed diverse crustacean life and, rocky reefs. And all of that comes together to form some really interesting photographic differences that we're going to talk about today of how do you shoot in real light situations? How do you shoot at night? And then how do we edit to make sure that we can reflect that in between?
Yeah, especially because like obviously light being such a big part of just on land photography, then is
Yeah,
probably a whole nother beast when you then have to deal not only with like light filtering and color filtering through the surface, because I also know I think as you go deeper, saturation decreases, right?
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, you lose color, you lose actual intensity. So we actually bring our own lights with us. So the same as a
oh no
studio
way.
photographer, I've got two strobes that I use, and I've got them on these big arms. I can pull back and forward and change position in order to get different angles. But
Okay, so you
it's like
have to go to the gym. That's not even like a it's
you
nice to go
got
to the gym. You
it.
like physically have to go to the gym, otherwise you are not able to get the shots that you need to get. Um,
Yeah, but when I say big, I'm like we have like literal arms that connect to the camera housing. So it's
oh,
you have the
interesting.
lights connected and you're always changing them. But yeah,
Interesting. And like, are
crazy
you
times.
using like a motorized propeller, or are you just using back fins that you're just flipping around?
Got two motorized propellers attached to my feet.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
The feet 1.0s, right?
Yeah. So we are here in Lightroom though, right? And
Yeah.
we have kind of a selection of different ones that you have. It doesn't look like you've done like any culling yet or anything, right? These are just kind of like just bulk dump of the shots from any given shoot, right?
Yeah, so we had some really nice conditions. So hidden secret, the best time to come out and dive in California is actually our winter time, right
Okay.
before the storms hit. You get the best clarity. But yeah, we've got a couple of shoots that I did. We've got some in the Rocky Reef. We've got some of some friends and some sea turtles. And then we get down into our special understory reefs off of Point Loma. Then I've got some couple examples from the canyon, from some of our different ecosystems and our pelagic ecosystems that we'll go into.
What is a pelagic ecosystem?
Yeah, so pelagic ecosystem is anytime you're on the open ocean. So it's
Okay.
a vast desert, but you've got these little travelers that make it wonderful and amazing.
Now I have what is it, thalassophobia, where I don't really like open water. It freaks me out. I love seeing pictures and videos of it, but like
Yeah.
doing what you do and going into just like open water is probably a way that you could torture me if you wanted to explore one of my nightmares. So I'm excited to vicariously live through you here,
There we
um,
go.
and see the stuff that you've got going on. Also, do you have a favorite fish, and is it in California, or is it something that you
Wow.
have to go and hopefully shoot somewhere else?
I've got two favorite fish. So my real favorite fish, you're gonna have to go to Southern Australia for. It's the leafy sea dragon,
Uh huh.
but they've evolved to look like kelp and they're amazing. But I'd say my second favorite is the mola mola, which is
Yeah,
the ocean sunfish, which can be about, 6 to 8 feet long. They're the largest bony fish on the planet. And we
I've
do
caught
have
it
them
in
in
an Animal Crossing
California.
before. Just want to say that's fine.
Well, yeah. Hey, come out to San Diego and we'll show you, we'll
The
get you a
real
new
ones.
in real life. Yeah.
Also, Dinah wants to know if you, by any chance, I feel like I should have hit you this up before we went live, but Dinah wants to know if you have any photos of your equipment by any chance.
Oh, you know what? I should have thought about this. I've got it in the other room. I can go
Okay.
grab it. But
I can also, at some point, I can also throw it in the Discord too, if you
yeah,
guys want to
yeah.
check that out at some point. But I also don't mean to derail you. I know you had stuff planned, stuff to go through, so I want to just like,
No, this
um,
is great.
we can. I love being able to see the light leaks or the light rays coming through
Oh
the
yeah.
top of some of these shots. Also, you had obviously it's going to be very cool like color tones because blues and greens, but I thought it was interesting if you scrolled down probably about like 3/4 down
Yeah.
of yours, you had a shot that it was very warm. It was like yellows and pinks. If you keep on going,
Oh,
um
probably with the kelp.
I think it was kelp related. And it was just
Yeah, it
really
could
interesting to
be.
also see how, the color. Oh, maybe it was even further. There it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
this right here.
Hmm.
So no, it was what is it? This is like a like sea creature sort of. What? Yeah,
What, down
is that a
here?
living being? Yeah, these guys. Yeah, that's not kelp.
Yeah, so this
That's
is
something else.
it's a nudibranch. So that's a
Mhm.
it's a fancy
Okay.
sea slug.
Oh
Um,
wow. Yeah,
but
fancy. That's a word for it.
basically, yeah, right. But they look like aliens, but they're all over our intertidal zones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And how big? Like how big is this?
So they've got super wide range, and they can go from something like about the size of like a thumbtack all the way to like a 3-inch monster.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
this one was
monster is the right
probably
word, but not a disrespectful word. I need to
not a
be clear about
disrespectful
this.
word.
I'm fearful, but they're very cool, and it's great to see these pictures.
So
It's
glad.
also cool. Our previous stream, we were just kind of going through a lot of portraiture, which then you have a lot of animals here, but it's also cool. I saw pictures that you had of fellow divers as your
Yeah.
like have friends that you're going with. Are you normally in a like a trio of friends when you're going out shooting, or do you do a lot of solo shooting? What does that look like?
Yeah, so it kind of depends. When we're operating in the Rocky Reef, it's pretty safe to go out by yourself. I've gotten to that point in water comfort where I can just head out, go find our local turtles. But, when you're scuba diving, it's always super important to have a buddy. It's one of the main tenets of diving is making sure that you've got someone just in case something goes wrong.
Yeah.
So a lot of solo work in the intertidal, a lot of solo work in the Rocky Reef. But as soon as you pass that scuba boundary, it's buddy always.
Okay. And I'm guessing you probably what did you start with? Did you start more with kind of like the title photography, or were you straight into like open ocean when you got into it?
Yeah, I mean, well, so I started out being majority bird photographer. I
Oh wow, you went
Yeah,
polar opposites. Okay, so you
went
sort
team
of
bird to team fish real fast. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. If Oliver shows up, I'm not sure if he's here today or not. But Oliver is also a great bird photographer as well. So I
Oh,
wonder
no
if he'll
way.
end up diving deep at one point. But what made the switch?
Yeah, so I grew up with reef tanks and breeding seahorses, and so I always was
Naturally,
obsessed with the ocean
yeah.
naturally.
I've seen
And
videos of seahorses giving birth, and it's terrifying.
it is
It's
wild.
it is the craziest birthing animal thing that I have ever seen. Like literally hundreds just like bursting out of a male, right? It's like a male stomach, right?
Yeah, absolutely
That's crazy.
crazy.
Um,
But as soon as I had the chance to come out to California, took that photojournalism experience topside and said, I'm gonna, invest all this time into making sure I can tell those same stories down beneath the waves. So got my scuba cert, did the thing, and here we are,
Yeah,
five,
and
6 years
so
later.
as far as photojournalism, I know you're really passionate about obviously conservationism and or conservation, and there is a link to both your Instagram, your Behance, and your personal website. I saw on your Instagram you've done things with like the Smithsonian. You've done things, I believe, with the was it the New York Times? You've also
Yes.
done a bunch of different photojournalist approaches. So when you're doing that, how do you National Geographic as well? Like when you're
Yeah.
like hopping in, do you say like I need to get this photo, or are you kind of more like this is the environment, I'm going to just kind of take as much as I can and then form a story afterwards?
Yeah. So what happens is I'll do the research for a story beforehand. So I'll say,
Okay.
okay, I'm doing a piece on this whale fall. I'm like, okay, I need to get shots that show the environmental context. I need a shot showing the length of this whale. I need a shot showing all the predators that are coming up to it. And whatever nature allows me to get, it allows me to get. But as long as I can have a subject and I can work at it, I'll spend as much time as possible doing that. I'll go back, I'll talk to my editors. I'll say, hey, I'm working on this story. Or there's this brand new study coming out, and I've got these amazing images, or these images that I have been working on that can pair up with this to tell people about what's going on here.
Yeah.
Then they'll say, hey, maybe not for us, or hey, you know what? Yeah, go get it, and we'll pay you to finish this work. So it kind of just depends on how the publications are feeling and what the timeliness of the work is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Not much different from somebody who's shooting on land. I guess it's just like more so. It's like you have to be familiar with your landscape and your environments when you're underground as well.
Yeah.
Um, I have your Instagram right here, which is Jules Jacobs under photo. underwater conservation photojournalist. And there's a bunch of different stuff here, crazy crab photos, a very grumpy looking turtle, among others. Don't worry, I do follow you. I'm just not logged in. And then you have this crazy one with a fallen whale,
Yeah.
which that is also, it'd be crazy to see a whale in real life. But some really cool stuff.
For sure.
Um, so let's quickly though. Oh wait, I'm not sharing my screen. Oh, you guys, I'm just like talking out loud, and you guys are like, yeah, sure, whatever. But here we are. Here it is with all of these really beautiful things. So make sure you check out Jules Jacobs _photo. And you've got some cool different stories also saved like across California, and this is the grumpy turtle I was talking about. Um, but also like there is a lot of abstraction also underwater because it feels like a other world often. um so it's cool to be able to see difference between clarity and then also like super artsy photographable approaches to some of this stuff. Peter is saying, do we have a slide presentation of his photos? Well, yeah, I have that Instagram right there. And also saying National Geographic. Yes, is one of the ones that you have pinned up there. Which congratulations.
I
Might be
appreciate
old
that.
news to you. I'm not sure, but that is very cool. I feel like that's a lot of little kids' dreams and adults too, of being like one day I want to be in National Geographic. So um, it's easy to move the goalposts once you get there, but just make sure that you also are celebrating that because that's very very cool.
Thanks.
Um, Now, as far as the photos that we have up right here, right now,
Yeah.
this is in San Diego,
This
Zebra
is all in
Perch.
San Diego. Yeah, and so this is a group that I shot that I kind of wanted to pick out for you guys because when I come back and I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna soak my gear, gotta rinse it off with fresh water. I'm gonna get myself in the shower. I'm just gonna dump a memory card real quick.
Hmm.
It's kind of tough to find which shots are gonna be the ones that I really want to spend time editing, maybe put on my website, maybe get over to an editor. And
Yeah.
so a really cool new feature that Adobe's put out is that assisted culling.
Okay.
So a couple of ways that we can do this, and I'm just taking out zebra perch are like the cattle of Southern California.
Oh,
They're going to
okay.
go, they're going to mow down algae. They're going to make sure that the rocky reef has enough, new spots for new kelp to grow off of, but they're clearing out old dead stuff, kind of recycling nutrients back into the ecosystem.
So they're
So
doing they're doing good stuff. They're not invasive. They're helping the ecosystem.
no, they're a great part of the ecosystem.
Okay.
Super helpful fish, do their thing, and then they help recycle nutrients up where people eat them, and eat the algae that's dying or maybe needs to be recycled, clearing room for new shoots to grow. So they're ecosystem engineers in that way, kind of helping the ecosystem stay healthy, but they're super relaxed around people. And so I
Okay.
had 5 or 6 duck dives when I can spend some time with these guys. This is maybe in like 5 or 6 feet of water. So I had as much time as I wanted, as long as, I was keeping my breath holds good, had that time. So I've got 130 pictures here, and I'm like, where do I even get started?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go in and I'm just going to look at like, okay, out of the 130, what's 20% sharp?
Yeah.
And see, bragging a little bit, at least all of my photos are 20% sharp.
But it's also one of those
Uh,
things. It's like I'm sure a lot of these systems were made with obviously things on land in mind,
yeah.
and there's a different approach here. And it's cool that even in your profession and even in your specific focus, you're still able to kind of use this assisted calling to then be able to um, speed up your workflow and kind of just narrow some stuff down.
Oh, dude, absolutely. It's a game changer in helping me just identify those easy ones. And when I talked about bringing those lights down, especially on bright sunny days like this, we're cranking those lights up as far as they go because we need to overcome the light that's coming off of the sun in order to get those fill shadows in.
Yeah.
And so I'm getting maybe every third or fourth shot exposed because my lights are only giving me that much power every fourth shot, something like that.
Yeah.
So especially with fast moving action, we get these sequences. So you can see like here. So this was within 2, 3 seconds of each other. But okay, here we didn't get the flash completely right. Maybe we got it here. but here was probably the first off the sequence. And so I'm going to say, okay, that was taking me down from 130 down to 6.
Okay.
So this just helps me identify, okay, these 4 are probably going to be my winners. That's where I want to spend most of my time, right?
Okay. Yeah. And so then once you kind of have selected which one you want to work with here, what is the first thing that you're doing when you're approaching a picture? Also,
Mhm.
I'm seeing Rapberry is in the chat saying Nat Geo
Yo-ho!
King, which it's yeah, definitely agree with you there.
Ah, dude, Raymond's the man. Can't wait to see his work coming up, but his stuff is unbelievable. Talk about my stuff being weird and funky. Like he's got some real ways of getting the the ideas of people coming out in that way. So excited to see what he's got up next. Yeah, when I'm starting a shot, I'm looking to balance the light on the water, right? So kind of like we were talking about as a photojournalist, we're trying to bring things back to as I saw them in person.
Right.
So this was a super clear day. So we did have that blue water, but we're gonna see as we go into some of the kelp that San Diego's color is like emerald green. Like we've got a lot of phytoplankton in the water. So that's really how our environments look. And so I'm trying to bring that out. But
Okay.
I'm just going to go real quick, hit an auto, just kind of get those basic settings, and I'm going to kind of go from there. So, okay,
Wow.
I like how our light beams are coming through here. Getting a little vignette. I'm going to hit, I want the highlights to shine through, but I don't want them to overpower. I'm going to bring up the whites. And once I have like a general exposure that I like, and see, blacks are super important in underwater photography. So here we super washed out, yeah. But then as
Yeah.
I'm bringing it in, we're starting to get more of that contrast. I'm big on a contrasty kind of dark look. You can toss in a little dehaze, don't go crazy with it, but that's something that I really try to bring in to get that color contrast in my work. Now that I have this and I kind of have the global exposure that I'm looking for, I'm going to go into landscape and trying to separate elements out.
Okay.
So something
Wow.
really important I want you guys to see. So like we were talking about, that landscape mask is so good at picking out distinct elements. What I want to highlight while we kind of have it highlighted in red is that behind this vegetation, you have spots of water where that landscape mask isn't picking up that there's water. So
Right.
I'm going to show you guys how we deal with that. So I just created the mask and I'm going to show you guys. So if we go all the way up, all the way down, right? So that's kind
Yeah.
of what we're looking at. And then all these areas in between where that's not happening. So that's not bad. It just means we're going to change it a little bit. So if I really want it to be like Hawaii blue, I'm going to tint those blues a little bit and I'm going to add a little bit of purple. What we're doing there with the purple or the magenta is we're counteracting the green. So if I'm leaning into greens, I'm going to lean away from a magenta. But if I really want to say like, hey, we're in the tropics, I'm in Indonesia or Papua New Guinea or Hawaii, right? Like I'm going to really emphasize that blue. But in
Yeah.
San
So I'm
Diego,
guessing you obviously have a expertise in the West Coast and in the
yeah.
area that you're shooting in, but obviously I'm getting the impression that you probably travel around a lot and are in all different places shooting stuff.
Yeah, so I actually, up until this point, I've specialized in the California current. So
Hmm.
things down from Baja all the way up to Alaska, shooting that California kind of nutrient zone, right? But I am working on a global project on clownfish that'll take me to Indonesia, Sulawesi, kind of bopping around the world in
Oh, cool.
the next year or two. So excited to continue that work for
And
sure.
that'll be exciting to see how that also impacts. Because I saw when you were flipping through stuff, you also had some shots of some orange fish, but especially with
Yeah,
these zebra, they obviously are gonna share a lot of colors with their environment, and just kind
definitely.
of having to then find a way to then pull them out. Um,
Absolutely. And what
so
I'm
we're
what I'm
using.
doing here,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. Yeah, yeah. You were about to say it yourself. I was just saying. So we popped into the mask tool on the right, which is like the little circle
Mhm.
with the lines through it to then be able to identify a mask and then work on things specifically with non-destructively working on an edit to work on things like a
Yeah.
linear gradient. You did just add this gradient. What is this gradient for?
Yeah, so what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to kind of get rid of those pockets of water that the landscape mask didn't necessarily catch.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to blend that exposure from up top down to below so that we've got a consistent color throughout the water here. And I'm still seeing it poking out. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make that linear gradient even stronger. So I'm just pulling that down, and then that should help us here. Another thing I'm going to do is intersect. I'm going to do another linear gradient, and I'm going to pull it from below up. Yeah.
And this
And that's
red is also
activating.
just kind of showing you what is being impacted and where it is. We're not actually implementing the reds into the thing here.
Yeah, exactly. We're just showing what areas are going to be impacted by that mask. So I'm going to bring it up so then that way you're seeing it. Now, something I want to highlight is that if you're creating an exposure through masks for top down, and we were talking a little bit about how light works underwater, it gradually falls off. So it's not going to be a consistent exposure throughout. So I'm looking to create something that's going to kind of work on both sides. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to actually subject select. So we're going to see, okay, I picked out a couple of fish. I'm going to subtract out the sargassum here. And
Not also not it being like, is this a human right here? I know it's the subject thing. It's not actually saying human, but it is funny to see
yeah,
the
let's,
little icon for it.
yeah, the people, oh, definitely not person.
Yeah.
But now that I've picked out the fish, we're going to go and I'm just going to try to make them pop a little bit. So something I like to do is just toss like a little bit of a inverse mask. So now that I've selected these guys, I'm just going to toss a little bit lower, and that's just going to help them pop out, right?
Right.
So we've got this.
And this is so cool. It just like it's just so noteworthy to me that obviously these tools are made for everybody, but I can't imagine that a lot of it is with a focus on such a niche industry. And it's so great to see that then it's still like all of these things are still working. It's still being able to read the data and be able to say, this is the subject, this is what you're focusing, this is how you select this. And it really doesn't seem like you kind of are running into really any barriers as you're doing things that would just generally be above ground. Also,
Yeah.
really fascinating to see how clear this image has kind of suddenly already become. And it feels, yeah, do the before and the after, just the clarity that we've already achieved is really cool.
Yeah, it's what Adobe has done to create tools that all photographers can use is something we should all be very excited about and excited to be on the team for. But I think as we learn how to partner with AI, it's going to help these workflows. So as AI can recognize, hey, that's a fish. Then instead of
Right.
me having to go in selectively mask out, okay, I want this and this and this, it can say, hey, here's this front school, here's this back school. I think that's just
Yep.
going to get better with time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And here I'm kind of helping that color pop out a little bit more. Um, and you can see that my lights here, they grabbed the first four fish, but maybe this one swam out of the range. And so I'm going to just go in and help brighten that up.
And so we're doing that. That's
Man.
also just still within a mask that also can still be accessed and is all non-destructive to then be able to go through and adjust. If you guys have any questions in the chat or even comments, or let us know your favorite fish in the chat,
Yeah.
sound off, and would love to hear what you guys are into. I really like, I know it's not a fish, but I just think octopus are really cool.
Let's talk about
And
octopus a little bit.
oh, do you have one in your collection here?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
we were
cool.
talking about that canyon, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've got two
Wow.
Pacific red octopus here. So we've got this little guy, and then we have him on a macro wide angle lens. So kind of
Okay.
going from those legs all the way up to the face. But let's just do this one because this
Are
gives
you
us a
switching
little.
out lenses underwater, or you have two separate cameras?
No, yeah. So these were on two separate dives.
Okay.
I have a zoom lens underwater, so I can go from basically like a 60-degree point of view all the way out to 130 with the
Yep.
special lens that I have. But each time you do a dive, you've got to switch it out. You'd flood the camera otherwise.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
And
Which we don't want.
which no, we do not want.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Also
I'm just
seeing
gonna
Mike
go
is
ahead.
saying that his favorite is tuna, and I don't know if that's because he wants to eat it or if he just has a respect for the form factor of tuna.
Tuna are the coolest. They are unlike any predator that we have on land.
Yeah.
Um, like they if they were a land predator, they would be, more formidable than a wolf or a lion. Like they're just
Really? Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
unbelievable predators. Yeah, they get huge, but we love eating them.
Joke's on them. Huh.
Jokes on them, tuna.
Also, I'm seeing that Winter is saying that giant squids are very scary. And also, Peter was commending your previous photo, then was saying that you're getting a depth of field look, which, yeah, you can definitely get a better sense of space. Because I feel like when you're starting things out, and this is not a criticism of your work,
Yeah.
this is just a variable that you have to work with. I feel like when you're shooting with um, underwater photography, it feels like a lot of it, the depth just gets really shortened, and you can't really understand the vastness of what you're looking at. And so, doing some of these matte uh, changes and clarity and contrast, I think that like even already with this, like we're seeing it already feels like the octopus has come forward a lot. Also, does he have a little worm in the front of him here? This was a little
Yeah,
yellow
so
guy.
that's a brittle star.
Okay.
And they live all over this canyon. They'll pop out and grab little nutrients or little kind of crustaceans, but they're
Awesome.
everywhere.
Um, I'm seeing a Mola Mola Club. Does that mean
Oh yeah.
anything to you?
It does. Yeah, we got some of our Monterey friends on here. Mola Mola, those ocean sunfish I was talking about, but they're awesome, and we'll get into some shots of them later.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, but you
Yeah,
can
I
see
know
like,
we're already halfway through our show. It's flying by just because I know I'm berating you with questions. But this is really cool how we were able to pull out the reds, especially because you said this was what kind of octopus is this?
yeah, so this is a Pacific red octopus,
A Pacific
but
octopus, and so it definitely
we
reads
really
more
did.
red.
Yeah, and so we did some pretty minor changes here. I mean, I darkened, I took out some hot spots from the ground around it. I added some contrast to him, and then I kind of bumped up the contrast to get that real emerald green that I was talking about. But I mean, that was 45 seconds, right?
Yeah,
And with that, we got from raw file to something edited, and that's really just focusing on the environment, trying to replicate that feeling that we have down in the canyon there, right?
yeah. And so when you're shooting this underwater, are
Yeah.
you using like an overlay of like rule of thirds or anything, or do you feel like most of the composition curating comes back on the editing process?
Yeah, I mean, so especially on scuba, we have time to really play around and say, okay, I want to be over here, I want to be over here. With these guys that like to hang out on the seafloor, you get a lot of time to compose,
Yeah,
even bringing in backlights, things like that. Now, when you're open ocean or you're in the kelp forest, you don't necessarily have that time.
because
So
things are just
you're
flying by, whipping around.
exactly. So you're looking for those moments and you're looking to put yourself in the place where you think the animal is going to come through. So
Yeah.
like with these Garibaldi, I've got some other shots where they're more placed in kind of brackets. And that's just me saying, okay, I see where they're going, and I'm going to put myself in the spot to then get them there. So there is a lot of composition that's happening. It's just what do you have the time to do with your hour underwater if you're on a scuba tank, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I guess that's also like a thing. And we were talking in just the previous stream about kind of fighting against the sun and using that as your timeline, but also when you have to then incorporate air and like a scuba tank, that obviously gives you a whole nother timer. Monty Daniel is asking what depth you are at.
Yeah, so this was a California scorpionfish. This was down at 70 feet.
Okay.
And this was in the early morning. So these guys are nocturnal. And so I had a chance to hang out with one in very, very early morning, but he was pretty grumpy with me,
Yeah.
as you can see. But they're crazy guys, and I love the details that you get on their heads and their eyes. And so what I'm looking to do here is I'm trying to draw the viewer's attention right into that eye. So I'm
Yeah.
just going to brighten that up a touch.
And that's once again, that's with like a specific mask that you're just kind of just brushing in. Are you using
Yeah,
just a trackpad or a mouse, or you have a stylus?
just using a trackpad.
You have a trackpad, okay.
Yeah, and then this is just a little radial filter. I really like radial filters because I think they create a very natural look.
Okay.
Like if I'm going to create an overlay, it seems like the light kind of falls off. And what I can do is I can help that mimic the light that I'm creating. Underwater, light moves in cones. And so it's always going to be a little bit more diffuse than light on land as it moves in like straight lines.
Oh yeah, and so I know we were talking a little bit earlier about how you started with bird photography. Did you have to
Yeah,
then really kind of educate yourself on a lot of the scientific approaches of what's happening underwater with light as you got into
absolutely.
it?
Yeah, I mean it's hours and hours of trial and error, but then
Hmm.
it's also going and reading. Dr. Alex Mustard is kind of like he wrote the book on
Okay,
underwater lighting, and so
you
he
said
gives you a
Alex
lot of
Mustard.
yeah.
That's not a character in the game of Clue. That is
He is
yeah.
not,
That's
but he is knighted. He
oh, is
is
he really?
Sir Alex Mustard. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
But he
Okay.
wrote the book on underwater lighting. So for just getting into it, definitely recommend looking out at that.
Oh, very cool.
Um,
I'll throw that into chat.
yeah.
I'm seeing Shruti is saying that she's learning so much. So glad to hear. If you have any questions, please, by all means, there are no dumb questions. I promise. I will ask a dumber question than you. I promise. Um,
Yeah. Shruti, who's my amazing writing partner for National Geographic and the New York Times. We worked on our squid story for National Geographic together and then the whale fall story for New York Times. So
oh, very
glad to
cool.
have you on, Shruti.
Now this looks dark. What time of day was this?
This was at 4 a.m.
Wow. Okay.
This was very, very early in the morning. The squid run is something that happens around the world, but also does happen in California when we get opalescent squid coming in the mass to
Opalescent.
breed in our deep water zones.
Okay. And so
So
is
what?
this using a flash? Because is this something where you just have to like then? And do they react poorly to that? Or are you like I get one shot and then they all scatter because of the flash?
No, actually, it's funny. We're gonna keep things PG-13 here, but they have their mission on the mind,
Uh
and so
huh.
they don't really care if we're there, if predators are there. I've had
Okay.
sharks run up into us and just take a mouthful of squid, and they just keep on doing their thing.
So they're all mating. It's all the rush is not like a relocation. It is they're going for their mating season or whatever, and
They're
they're kind
looking
of
to
just putting them.
continue their species for
This
sure.
is so fun. Keep things PG-13.
Yeah,
um,
they're pretty
learning
crazy.
stuff across the board today. Um, so yeah, so when you're then kind of navigating in the dark, I'm sure maybe you have like a headlamp or something. Are you
Yeah.
approaching photography different, shooting it, and then also are you approaching it differently, editing it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think photographers can fall into the trap of when you're shooting at night, it's all this black background stuff. And I was at a point in my life where I could only really dive at night a couple years ago.
Hmm.
And then I was doing a lot of night photography. So you really have to get creative with what's in your background in order to kind of break up that monotony of this is just black background stuff.
Yeah, it kind of just feels like, but it does also then kind of make that strong comparison to kind of like otherworldly, alien, outer space kind of thing with kind of having that black background. But then also, yeah, I'm sure it also really shortens your depth and the idea of space.
Yeah.
Shruti is saying, let's go with a party. Also, Peter is talking about the hundreds of all of the squids. But I'm seeing here that you're also guiding the viewer's eye here with making adjustments specifically to one in particular, kind of towards the center of the frame. Uh,
Yeah.
and that's all, once again, with being able to use creative masks in all of Lightroom, which is nice.
Yeah, and just like we were talking about earlier, where we're trying to compose in the moment in the field,
Yeah.
I'm always looking for opportunities where nature can frame itself. So here, where we've got the squid in the foreground and the squid up top, kind of creating those diagonals, I'm always looking for those moments when we can use these natural patterns to frame the subject.
Yeah. Have you ever lost a whole days of shooting because of some sort of technical malfunction underwater?
Oof. You know what? I have, and it was
Yeah.
pretty early in my career, and I was soaking my housing. You always have to rinse it off in fresh water.
Hmm.
And I was trying to keep it down in the bathtub when I was, at home, try to get all the nooks and crannies. By applying pressure, I got a little tiny leak in my housing. And so it was my fault and it was completely forced error.
Oh
Um,
no.
but I did lose a shoot. Now, it wasn't a super productive shoot, so no harm, no
Right.
foul, but lessons learned.
That's definitely lessons learned here. All right, so we got it. We got there. We got. I thought we would probably land on a shark at some point.
There we
We have.
go.
Um, does this make you uncomfortable? Are you pretty comfortable around sharks for the most part? Um, if one shows up to a shoot unexpectedly, is the shoot over, or do you kind of how does that look?
So, Ryan, here's what I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to get some weird looks from the audience here. I'm uncomfortable in water where there are no sharks. I
Okay.
think that shows the sign that this is a unhealthy ocean. And, there's been some pretty prominent shark attacks in the news, but sharks are friends. They
Yeah.
keep our oceans healthy. They are literally older than trees.
Yeah.
And so when I see a shark, it's a respect thing.
Right.
I'm minding my business, making sure I'm doing the right things, but you're monitoring behavior. And this is a short fin mako. This is one of the fastest sharks in the ocean. And so they are built for speed. They're built for hunting big pelagic prey, like we're talking about the pelagic zone.
Yep.
Um, and all that I was really paying attention to is just what are its behaviors? How comfortable is it with me? And if it started to get a little testy, I'm out of the water because I'm
Got it.
saying this is your home, so I'm going to respect your boundaries.
Now, and
Um,
that's actually the second time that you've commented on the like I don't know, psychology of the personality of the things that you're shooting. I know we were looking
yeah.
kind of at that bottom dweller earlier, and you said he was being grumpy with you. Does that tend to just be more like, are they kind of running into you and like kind of being more like aggressive, like physically towards you, or they circle you? Like, what does that look like? What does that mean if they're getting more testy?
Yeah, it's going to be dependent individual fish to individual fish. Um, with sharks, you're looking for these charges, right? So if they're going to
Hmm.
kind of come right at you and test when you go, that's
Yeah,
it trying to determine who's the most powerful there.
yeah,
With some fish, if they're kind of turning away from the lights, it's always with wildlife photography, we're looking for how comfortable is this animal with me being here? How can I be as least intrusive as possible? And when the animal is saying, I don't want to be here, you let it do its thing.
yeah.
So a
Do
big
you have to
lesson
tend to
is,
like be in a space for like 15 minutes where everything's scared of you at first and then finally like all the fish kind of come back because you've been there for a little bit? Like, do you feel like
yeah,
your most successful shots are normally later in a shoot?
I do, at least later with a subject, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all a matter of getting that subject comfortable with your presence, understanding how you want to compose in the moment in the field, and then, yeah, executing once the animal's done a couple of its behaviors, right?
Right. And then for this specific photo, and I'm not sure if this is the right technical anatomy language for it, but we're getting a lot of shine on the cheek and the side of the face
Yeah.
here. I saw that you brought down the highlights. We were talking a little bit earlier about how you do that often when you're working things because you don't want it to be overpowering. Um, how is it with editing and shooting reflective surfaces under water? Do you feel like that normally gets in your way a lot?
Man, it's tough. And sharks do have such bright spots,
Hmm.
but what we do again, so let's say these are the camera has these arms that hold the strobes, right? I'm gonna pull them back behind the arms of the housing. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna create those cones, but it's gonna spread them out even further. So the same way you'd reduce a hotspot in a studio session, right? I'm
Yeah.
just pulling it back, making that light more diffuse, and that should help tone down the color and those hot spots. So I'm going to go in. Yeah, and I'm even going to do some selective edits here. So I still don't like how shiny that is. So I'm going to go in and create a little radial.
And with the radial, we're getting kind of the soft edges, kind of, and also being a kind of like a focused spot in it, and being able to then make those adjustments that don't feel as noticeable when you're looking at it from, maybe just because of a hard edge. Also,
Absolutely.
River Mike is saying makeup. Yes, all the sharks are covered in makeup. Clever says that fish have personalities. That she kept aquariums, and saltwater fish always had big personalities.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, so did the occasional goldfish, which, of course. Um, do you have a tank of fish in your house?
No, now my tank
No,
is the ocean.
your tank's the ocean. That makes
But
sense.
I do love talking about, the aquarium industry and how that can exist in this future where biodiversity loss is so rampant.
Yep, For sure. Yeah, I guess also, yeah, I know we're getting closer on time, and I do know that you are very passionate about conservation. Is there anything that you're currently like very passionate about that you're trying to raise awareness with, especially with your photos or anything?
Yeah, so I'm doing a pretty big story right now on kind of the understory of kelp. So
Hmm.
we see these big um, kind of charismatic giant kelp, and then there's all the characters that live underneath. And so looking at what
Right.
makes them special, looking at the scientists who are studying, how they're going to deal with global warming, and then how we can take these lessons and apply it to new environments. So
Right.
for example, things like this giant kelp fish, and let's find there's a couple of good ones here. They've evolved to live in that giant kelp, and so
Hmm.
they look exactly like it. And this is one in a kelp species. I'm gonna kelp nerd out. This is a Gregia.
Okay.
And then down here, we've got a species called Macrocystis. So this is the giant kelp, but see how this fish blends in almost perfectly. So
Makes your
they're
job harder, I'm
adapting.
sure. It's like a game of I Spy when you're going down, and then you're like, okay, well, not only have to find the picture, but I also have to find the subject.
Oh my God, yeah. But it's a cool behavior to highlight, yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So
And also like then now we have the because of your expertise, we know that it's there. And then we kind of have to then edit the photo to specifically call it out so that then the viewer, if they're just looking at it for the first time, can also immediately call it out. So it looks
exactly.
like you're already doing things with exposure and your whites there to be able to then create it. And then being able to kind of guide the viewer who doesn't have the trained eye to be able to see stuff.
Absolutely. And something I want to call out here. So we're going to go in and we're just going to create that landscape mask. But because I only want this to apply to certain parts
Hmm.
of it, I'm actually just going to subtract a lot of that out.
Got it. Okay.
So we're
And
going
you
to
did
go
that with
in.
kind of the auto selection of vegetation, which I was impressed to see. And nice to see that it was able to say like, yeah, all of this is different from the water that's in like kind of above the top right, which is cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. No, again, these tools, I think for underwater, there is some refinement needed on these masks.
Yeah,
But you can definitely get a starting point which we can go off of. And I think any AI tool is a really good, hey, this is a starting point that's going to speed up your workflow, but then you're going to need to edit it
of
after the
course.
fact.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially just to get you. It's better to start at a higher percentage of your way there than to start with zero, which is
absolutely.
always nice to have. Um, and then as far as like editing clarity, which is just going to bring out some of the details that we have and like the scaling and the sides. Um, Now, are you ever using things like dehaze or anything, or do you feel like those are not as useful for underwater?
No, I use dehaze constantly.
Yeah.
It is such a good way to bring in that contrast, bring in kind of that darker, moodier feel. I'd say you don't want to go overboard because it can look overboard
Of
real
course.
fast, but
Yes.
just a touch, that is all within the wheelhouse. And right now
Now we
I'm
got
just
about 5 minutes left or so. I was wondering if
awesome.
anyone in the chat has any questions. Like I said, I know I've been asking lots of questions here, and if there's anything that you specifically want to highlight before we end our stream, I want to give you time to make sure that you can hop into it.
Yeah.
But all of these photos are so cool. Wow, that turtle one with it coming at you is very,
Yeah.
very cool.
Let's
Um,
talk turtles real quick.
yeah. Okay. So what kind of turtle is this?
So this is an Eastern Pacific green sea turtle.
Okay.
So this is the variant of green sea turtles that lives from here all the way to the Galapagos.
Wow. Okay. And do they travel
Fun.
that, or are they just that's where they're found?
So our population specifically travels down from Baja to breed and where they're born,
Hmm.
up to San Diego and parts of Northern California, the Channel Islands, and then back to Baja. So it's this constant circle.
So that kind of
Um,
also goes back to your whole bird photography with migrating. It's kind of like there is a
Absolutely.
one-to-one relationship there.
Yeah, absolutely. There are seasons in water, there are migrations in water, and when we look at the oceans as a kind of living, changing system, I think it helps us understand like how we can better protect it, right?
Yeah.
That we create these borders as people, but Fish don't know what a country is.
Yeah,
Turtles
the
don't know what a
ocean's the
country is.
ocean. It's just it's open and it's there and they're going around. Winter
Exactly.
wants to know if you have been to the Great Barrier Reef and what we can do to help save it.
So I have not personally been to the Great Barrier Reef. I will be heading to Australia this fall for this
Yeah,
global
you
story
might
that
be able
we're.
to see your favorite fish that you were saying.
Yeah, there you
That'd be
go.
cool to
Yeah,
see if
down
you're
in
going
Southern
to Australia.
Australia.
Um,
But what you can do to help is, help your backyard, right? If you live near a stream, if you live in a city, there's organisms there that need your help, need your protection, need the awareness. So I'd say go out, get involved, be a witness, turn your camera towards the real life wildlife and conservation issues happening in your backyard and share your passion. Get really excited, tell everyone you know about this amazing fish or turtle or plant that's in your neighborhood. And by them understanding what's around them, you can use your photography to really become a conservation hero. And there are things around the world that can make us hopeless, but there are amazing people working day and night to figure out how to fix these things. So as long as you can consume a little bit less every day and try to, be out in nature and be a hero a little bit more, then you're doing your part to help solve this biodiversity and climate crisis that we're living in right now.
it's a great answer. Also, uh, Flo has a question for us and wants to know, how do you deal with murky conditions underwater? Does that call the shoot off, or do you just have to approach it differently with shooting it or editing it?
Yeah, I mean it's really a change in shooting and editing. And Flo knows this, shooting in San Diego herself. But we have more murky days than we have good days.
Hmm.
And if you just went out on the good ones, you wouldn't have very many pictures at all.
Oh
And
no.
so I'm constantly changing my lighting conditions in order to account for the fact that there's so much particulate matter in the water.
Right.
So I'm trying to make sure that that's not reflecting off stuff like that.
Oh, fantastic. And then a question for me here is being, if we have
Yeah.
any viewers that are interested in maybe getting into underwater photography, um, do you have any suggestions of like what a first step would be?
Yeah, absolutely. There's cameras at every level for you to get involved from, the old underwater film cameras that you can get at like a Target
Yep.
to, a little like a TG6, which is one of your entry point cameras. But consider taking your photography underwater. It changes the way you see light, especially on land. It changes the way that like it's such a visceral process of putting yourself into an unfamiliar ecosystem that it
Yeah.
changes how you can relate to photography. So if it's something you're interested in, please reach out. Please reach out to other underwater photographers, but take the chance to find out what it means to shoot a whole different world that we've just been able to explore.
Yeah. I'm seeing Clever is saying turbidity, which is water clarity or lack of, which we're learning SAT words today. So if anybody has taken SATs soon, that's where you go. You got turbidity.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, well, I am so sad that we are just about at time. I do want to once again call out your Instagram. Also, you have your website, which is just julesjacobsphoto.com, to be able to look through different stories, different photos, and also, wow, like what is that? What is that?
That's a
Proteins of the
biofluorescence and aggregating anemones. That was a
wow.
study out of Scripps looking at how this new protein helps them survive climate change.
Wow, so cool. And that's Smithsonian Magazine from summer
That was Smithsonian.
2024.
Yeah.
And you guys can go through here. You can go through stories, news and awards, different photos. Very, very interesting stuff. And thank you for answering my countless questions. Um, what you said you're going to Australia, so we can look forward to that. Is there anything else that we can look forward to from you in your coming work?
Yeah, looking at this fall for a big kelp story coming out that's looking at some California kelp species and how climate change is affecting them. And then, yeah, probably 2028, big global story coming out. And that'll trickle
Wow.
out as
I mean, that's
time.
remarkable that it's like, I mean, obviously these things take time, but I mean, also it's 2026. Like, I keep forgetting that. And so 2028 feels like forever away, but it's 2 years. But also the idea that you are then working on stuff 2 years out is very, very cool. Um, but great. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for walking us through Lightroom and your process and your calling. And we hope to talk to you again real, real soon.
Pleasure, Ryan.
Yeah, of course. And also for anyone who's watching live, make sure you stick around, especially if you're a photographer. We've got a lot of photo stuff today. We've got another photo stream coming up right after this. So make sure you check that out. All right.
Go check out Ratberry.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Yes.